Zachary Karabell, The Leading Indicators, A Short History of the Numbers That Rule Our World. Dive into the fascinating world of economics and discover the historical significance and impact of leading economic indicators. In the book Summary of the Leading Indicators, A Short History of the Numbers That Rule Our World by Zachary Karabell, explore how these carefully constructed numbers play a vital role in public policy decision-making and have evolved over time to keep up with society's shifting priorities. Learn about important concepts such as unemployment measurement, gross national product, GNP, gross domestic product, GDP, trade statistics, and the effects of globalization on these metrics.
Economics as a Science. The book highlights how economic information has transformed economics from a philosophy to a science, with leading economic indicators being crucial to public policy decision-making. These indicators reflect policy makers' understandings of economic activities, and changes in activities necessitate changes in indicators. The book also explores the contentious issue of whether domestic work should be counted as employment and output, showcasing the scope and granularity of the issue at hand. From unemployment to economic stability. This summary narrates the history of measuring unemployment in the United States, from being virtually non-existent to becoming a critically important economic indicator. The Great Depression brought to light the need for measuring unemployment and creating policies to address it. Although Hoover's policies were insufficient, FDR's New Deal policies were centered around the creation of jobs, and his appointee, Francis Perkins, played an instrumental role in developing the Department of Labor's data collection infrastructure. The monthly jobs report, released in 1959, has since become a crucial element in shaping policies related to labor practices, minimum wage, and unemployment insurance. Despite its significance, the report is inherently limited by sampling errors. However, its contents are kept under tight security since they can significantly impact economic markets. This summary emphasizes the importance of unemployment as an economic indicator while providing insight into the history and limitations of data collection and its impact on economic policies. National accounts, the foundation of economic indicators. National accounts systematic data collection began to measure the economy more fully in the aftermath of the Great Depression. American economist Simon Kuznets pioneered this work by developing national income statistics, used by FDR in his policies. Since then, national accounts data has evolved to incorporate changes in production mix and services, reflecting the global economy. The United Nations continually updates the methodology to include more information, such as the value of intellectual property and domestic work. The data collected serves as the foundation for economic indicators, providing coherent and necessary information for policymaking and understanding the overall economy. Without national account data, governments would lack the clarity needed to assess the economy, making it impossible to analyze and learn from significant events like the Great Depression. The birth of GNP. In 1942, during World War II, Simon Kuznets and John Maynard Keynes collaborated to create Gross National Product, GNP, to measure domestic and international production by American-owned businesses. GNP excluded production of foreign-owned companies in the United States. The purpose of GNP was to determine the levels of defense spending and tax increases that the U.S. could handle without causing devastating domestic shortages. The American policymakers used GNP and Keynes' aggregate demand concepts to inform price control policies that helped maximize sustainable output of the American economy. Thanks to astutely calculated wartime output and empirically sound New Deal policies, the U.S. became a superpower within 3 years. Power of GDP. The gross domestic product, GDP, has become a symbol of success and failure worldwide. Even though GDP does not include offshore production, it is a critical economic indicator for governments. The U.S. adopted GDP to measure the overall national economy in 1991, and it fits well with other national indicators such as employment, inflation, and housing. GDP was also used in calculating the 2009 stimulus policy, but it's not a perfect science. Analysts needed a measure of the gap between actual output and potential output, resulting from full employment. The employment indicators didn't contain data about job losses averted by stimulus policies, so experts had to approximate the gap. Creating the unemployment rate was also not a simple task of counting. GDP has the power to win or lose elections, but it's not a complete picture of financial well-being. The CPI, a controversial index. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, is a widely used indicator that affects government benefits and wage increases. It tracks prices of consumer goods, impacting the economy in a feedback loop. However, the CPI also draws controversy due to the questions of what to include in the basket of essential goods. The index has evolved over time, from using rent costs to reflecting home prices. Analysts also introduced the core CPI, which omits fluctuating food and energy prices, but contradicting inflation's effect on basic needs. The author suggests tailoring inflation indicators to specific needs and questions. The focus on escalating CPI reached a peak in the inflationary 1970s. Unraveling the Complexities of Global Trade. The book explains the challenges faced by import and export valuations in a globalized economy. The World Trade Organization, WTO, set definitions of trade statistics in the 1980s. Rules of origin was established to determine where goods originated based on final and substantial transformation. However, since the 1990s, cross-border trades have become more complex, making it difficult to allocate trade value based on only final assembly. The book delves deep to help readers understand the complexities and challenges of global trade. The truth about iPhone manufacturing. The value attributed to China in the final assembly of an iPhone is only around $10, even though trade statistics count the full value of the iPhone as an import. This leads to an annual $6 billion being added to America's trade deficit with China. By calculating GDP as consumption plus investments plus government spending plus trade, the import value of iPhones and other Chinese-made products owned by U.S. companies significantly underestimates America's GDP. Thus, while it is seen as an import from China, it's really just a mere $10 in value. The flaw in global trade data. Global trade statistics struggle to keep up with the changing nature of manufacturing, services, and education. The 2008 intellectual property revisions to the national accounts were just the beginning of an ongoing effort to correct trade data distortions. While the U.S. started collecting statistics on trade in services back in 1986, official reports on deficits with countries like China still only include goods, ignoring important surpluses in areas like services. This inaccuracy in trade statistics could create a distorted view of the U.S. employment problem and give rise to incorrect narratives about China's trade practices. Improving trade statistics and incorporating more detailed information about the manufacturing process could help to create a more accurate picture of global trade realities, revealing potential surpluses where deficits are currently reported. The limitations of leading indicators. Leading indicators, while well-maintained, suffer from a common drawback, capturing summaries in a single value. This simplifies things for politicians and the media, but neglects the nuances in underlying data and experiences of different regions and subgroups. However, technology is experimenting with new alternatives, such as the billion prices approach and Google's predictive algorithms. Rather than replacing these indicators, a dashboard approach of complementary, customizable alternatives is needed to meet the rapid and focused information needs of the 21st century. The UN Human Development Index serves as an example of the need for tailored and objective metrics to address questions about developing countries' progress.
Having traversed the intricate landscape of the numbers ruling our world, we can now appreciate how economic indicators have shaped the course of history and contributed to important policy decisions. From coping with booms and busts to understanding the implications of globalization, these numbers have much to teach us. However, we must also acknowledge the limitations of these indicators in capturing the complexities of modern life. Addressing the evolving needs of the 21st century calls for supplementing these summary indicators with customizable, varied alternatives, paving the way for a more comprehensive understanding of the world economy.